What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we have a fun one for you guys as Albert Breer wrote up an article yesterday diving into the Vikings' decision to hand the keys of the franchise over to J.J. McCarthy instead of bringing in Aaron Rodgers for a one-year Super Bowl run. It's awesome. A lot of great quotes from Breer and a lot of great quotes from Kevin O'Connell, so stay tuned for the entire thing. But before we dive into it, if you guys are a J.J. McCarthy believer and you believe in number 9 being the franchise quarterback for your Minnesota Vikings, go down there, show him some support, and hit that thumbs up icon. Put today's goal as 1,000 likes. I'm trying to get the good vibes going in the direction of J.J. McCarthy. So if you're a believer in him, go down there, hit that thumbs up icon. All right, so let's start off today's show diving into first what Albert Breer had to say on Aaron Rodgers, him really wanting to join the Minnesota Vikings next season. And this is the new report that came out. Apparently, Aaron Rodgers' pitch to the Minnesota Vikings was to have the idea of making a one-year run at a Lombardi and tying it to being a willing mentor for J.J. McCarthy. So Rodgers pretty much said, hey, I'll come in there for 1 year. I'll be the starting quarterback. We'll go try to win a Super Bowl, but I will also be a willing mentor for J.J. McCarthy, which I will say from the Rodgers perspective, kind of handled that the right way. Because if he came in and his pitch to the Vikings was like, hey, I want to be the guy for a 2-year run. I believe I can be the man that, gets the Vikings to, win their first ever Super Bowl, but I'm not really going to be too willing to mentor a young quarterback. I actually respect Rodgers for saying, hey, we'll go on a 1-year run. I'll also mentor J.J. McCarthy, but the Vikings obviously made the decision to hand the keys of the franchise over to J.J., and this is what Albert Breer had to say on that. In the end, faced with all that, the Vikings found themselves emboldened to give McCarthy the runway to seize the job, the staff the opportunity to build the offense for him, and see how that looked at the end of the spring. So the Vikings passed on Rodgers, pushing their chips in on a 22-year-old. And I think Albert Breer's right. Like the Vikings, this is like an all-in move from on J.J. McCarthy. And, that's also why I am a huge McCarthy believer, because Kevin O'Connell, those guys in that Vikings organization, they know more football than I will ever hope to know in my life. And if they are such a believer in McCarthy that they would rather pass on a 4-time MVP, a guy who has won a Super Bowl, one of the best throwers of the football we have ever seen, I think that says enough to, have you Vikings fans watching today's show. If you aren't a believer in JJ, just take what Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi did this offseason when they had a chance to potentially bring Rodgers in on a 1-year cheap deal, still willing to be a mentor for JJ. They just said, no, we want to turn the keys of the franchise over to JJ McCarthy. So I think that's just a great kind of report to get to speak into how much this organization believes in number 9, and also considering this guy is coming off a torn meniscus and they still believe he gives them a better chance to win football games next season. But Breer also said this, mainly talking about the offseason and just how the vibes were around the Vikings after they lost to the Rams, saying, and once the season was over, the Vikings were appended by the Rams in wild card round. McCarthy knew the stakes. Per O'Connell on his own, McCarthy's been in the building almost every day since the season ended. His weight is close to where it was at the day Minnesota worked him out privately in Ann Arbor last spring. He's moving well. He's been throwing a few days a week. If things were knocked off course a bit in the fall, McCarthy's done what he's needed to through the offseason to get them back on track. And that doesn't shock me at all that McCarthy was in the building every single day this offseason, because this guy is a sicko competitor. And actually, Bo Richter, he was talking about McCarthy and kind of how he has like a military mindset on how he just approaches life and approaches the day, which is pretty damn cool to hear. But hearing that McCarthy was in the building every single day this offseason does not shock me whatsoever. That's also why a big reason before the draft I was such a believer in him, because whatever J.J. McCarthy's max potential is, just him physically as a quarterback in the NFL, he would reach that. Now, question comes, is that a top 5 quarterback in the league? Is that a top 10 quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback? We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But him being in the building every single day this offseason does not shock me at all. And even Kevin O'Connell had this to say on J.J. McCarthy, saying he was in meetings. He was taking great notes. I was meeting with him personally once a week, and he had great questions. We were trying to steal whatever time we could. not only myself and him, but our other coaches as well. But the best part about it, he was in the building. He was around his teammates. He had a front row seat to see the journey Sam went on. There is some value in that, albeit with the frustration of, man, I wish I could be out there doing it physically every day. And that's where, for a young player, that can be hard sometimes, especially when you've had so much success. And I agree with Kevin O'Connell on that last part. Like, JJ winning state championships in high school, winning a national championship at Michigan, and then he tears his meniscus before his rookie season. I'm sure it was just driving him crazy because he wanted to get out there and play for his teammates. But just a thought here. What if JJ tearing his meniscus was a blessing in disguise? Because I remember when I got that notification on my phone, I was sitting at my desk here at Chat Sports, and I was just in shambles. I was, very disappointed we weren't able to see JJ his rookie year, and also just the natural setback that tearing your meniscus may have. But I love this quote that actually Jalen Hurts said this a couple times. I believe it's a scripture from John 16 something, but it is, what you may not know now, later you will understand. Where all of us were in shambles, we were disappointed in the injury, and we didn't really understand what that meant at the moment. But later we will understand. And what if, JJ has a very successful NFL career and he attributes a lot of what he had to learn from year one, just kind of working behind the scenes, seeing Sam Darnold go throughout a whole season where Sam Darnold last year, was very, very successful. I mean, winning 14 games, getting to the playoffs for a team that was supposed to win 6 games according to Vegas. Like, I think there is some advantage to that. So, kind of point being here with JJ, I know we were all disappointed he didn't play last season, but I almost wonder if this was a blessing in disguise where, just getting those mental reps behind the scene. And he is so young. It's not like he was Bo Nix where, coming out of college, 24, 25 years old, where if he would have to miss a rookie year, then it's like, oh, he's starting his first year when he's 26. JJ just turned 22 last January. So even in the middle of next season, he'll still be a 22-year-old turning 23. He's got all types of time. So, it's kind of one of those things. Just be patient. What you may not know now, later you will understand. But let me ask you guys this. Speaking about Aaron Rodgers, just be honest with me. Did you have any interest in Aaron Rodgers? Give me a Y for yes. Give me an N for no. If I'm being honest, 100% I did. This is a 4-time MVP. One of the best throwers of the football all time. It was at least a conversation that the Vikings needed to have. Now, I was still in the camp. There's no real situation where I could see the Vikings bringing him in unless JJ was ruled out again for next season. But obviously we know that's not the case, and he's throwing, on the field already. So you guys be honest with me. Did you have any interest in Aaron Rodgers? Let me know your thoughts down below. Now we'll get to more on what Kevin O'Connell had to say about JJ McCarthy here in a second. But first, I got to give a massive shout out to Game Time. And take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Now, Game Time, they have this new feature called Last Minute Deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy shows, theater shows, whatever it may be. Last minute deals on Game Time. Save up to 60% off. Now, Game Time makes getting tickets faster and easier, even for hard to get playoff seats. Prices on the Game Time app will actually go down the closer it gets to tip off with killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying all NBA playoff tickets. And with Luka, LeBron coming to Minneapolis over the next couple of weeks, if you guys want to get a ticket to any of those home playoff games, see Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo go toe-to-toe with Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves. Download the Game Time app and get $20 off if you plug in promo code CHATSPORTS. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's finish today's show talking about what Kevin O'Connell had to say on J.J. McCarthy. Love this photo of them after their first preseason game together where J.J. McCarthy threw that early interception, shook that off, had a monster performance in the preseason. But let's just dive into what KOC had to say. Saying it's pairing the individual work he's doing with the technique/learning phase of our whole team during that time of the year. And then seeing what projection we're feeling. what kind of offense we can be while he's still being cognizant and aware of where he's at on his developmental timeline. And then we go from there. And, hearing KOC kind of talk the way he is about McCarthy, I don't think there is going to be any easing JJ McCarthy in. He has to hit the ground running because 2025, the Vikings have made it clear. They truly believe with the roster they have, they can go compete for a Super Bowl. They're backloading all these contracts. They have a stacked roster. I think they only have 5 guys with over a $20 million cap hit, which is incredible considering the amount of talent that is on this roster. It really just makes me kind of feel like, hey, the Vikings believe where it's like, we don't need to ease J.J. McCarthy into this. We expect him to hit the ground running week 1, and they will start evaluating from there. And also, I'm curious with the way Kevin O'Connell was talking about changing the offense for J.J. McCarthy. I still really believe this whole offensive philosophy we have had, it's going to change. I think Kevin O'Connell is going to go more, towards the Kyle Shanahan playbook compared to the Sean McVay playbook that obviously he is very familiar with. But I think he's going to be more leaning into the run compared to where it was last year. It was just like, hey, Darnold, we're dropping back 35, 40 times a game. We're just going to get that ball out there to our weapons. And, obviously it led to some success, but also led to the Vikings, in my opinion, fizzling out the last 2 weeks just because they didn't have that consistent run game in their arsenal and their offensive playbook last season. But KOC also had this to say, saying, I'm excited to see him get that opportunity to pick up where he left off and be accelerated just because of the mental growth that he's been able to have within our offense and the verbiage and how we talk about plays. So it's just a matter of continuing to progress, knowing we feel good about the football team we put together. We've got the goal of surrounding the quarterback with the best possible team we can, both offensively and defensively. We feel really good at what that looks like. And I will also say this, because I've been saying all offseason, all the pressure's on J.J. McCarthy, and I do think that's true. A lot of pressure is on number 9. But there's also pressure on Kevin O'Connell because let's just say J.J. doesn't end up working out. Take the doomsday scenario. He's just a total bust. He can't get it done at the next level. The decision to roll with J.J. McCarthy, even though all of us kind of agree with that, it is a massive decision that falls on the shoulders of Kevin O'Connell because he did have a chance to go bring in Aaron Rodgers. And if he pounded that table enough to Kwesi where it's like, that's the guy I want, the Vikings would have brought him in. So there's pressure on Kevin O'Connell, no doubt. And he needs to get his playoff win because 3 years in, the Vikings have been really successful. But that hasn't came with a playoff win. And if we go through the next 2-3 years without one, that seat would just naturally get a whole lot more hot for KOC. So I'm hoping this year, my prediction is the Vikings go 11-6, get a sneaky playoff win. So hopefully he can get that under his belt. And, honestly, after Rory winning the Masters this weekend, I think there's a trend going on in the sports world of guys just kind of get a monkey off their back. And maybe Kevin O'Connell's the next person to do so. But also there's no more excuses. You improve the offensive line. The offensive just overall talent where you got that good offensive line, the 2 tackles, you got the tight end, 2 receivers. Now you got 2 good running backs, and now you got a quarterback that you hand-picked out and you truly believe in. There are no more excuses. If you go throughout the next 2-3 seasons without a playoff win, we'll have to start looking at Kevin O'Connell a whole lot differently. Do I think it will happen where they don't win a playoff game over the next 2-3 years? No. I think they'll win a playoff game this season. However, the pressure will just start to ramp up year after year after year if they do not find success in the postseason. But we'll close today's show out with this. Kevin O'Connell is the blank best head coach in the NFL. I think he's anywhere from that 6 to 10 range, but you guys let me know. KOC is the blank best head coach in the NFL, and we'll see you guys next time. As always, let's go Vikes.